So this is the first SPSS lecture I'm making, and basically I want to start it off from the point of you're going to order it, you're going to download it, and walk you through that a little bit here, and then how to do some very basic introductory things in SPSS software. So let's start with the fact that you have decided you're going to buy it, and you start to go through that those steps. So again, I really am not, I don't care how you get your SPSS access. I just found this website as something where it was relatively inexpensive and just seemed the easiest and the most straightforward, and you weren't likely to get, I don't know, swindled. That's actually a thing that still happens out there. So this is the website I suggested. I don't get any money for it or anything like that. Again, I don't care where you buy it from. But in this case, you usually have a few options. Generally speaking, no matter whether you buy it from this site or a different site, try to get the grad pack. The grad pack is what gets you some of the extra menus and expandability, and generally speaking, you're not paying anything more for the grad pack, so look for that term right there, grad pack. And then the second thing you need to look at here, is to make sure it's something where most of the time is actually going to be a download rather than a DVD or CD. But you want to make sure it works on both a Windows machine and or a Mac, and depending on what computer you're using, that you buy the right one. And then the third and last thing would be, how long do you want it for? The shortest is 6 months. The longest I've seen is 3 years. Okay. So then, if you just, in this case here with this website, you get 2 licenses, and as many of you know, I created that survey that you can fill out. And I'll try to link people up if you want to share the cost with somebody else. Otherwise, you can just have 2 licenses. And so let's say you got together, you got me as your partner, let's say, and you and I are going to do it. So I'm going to Venmo or PayPal you the $17.50 price difference, right? One of you is going to buy it. And you're going to get the licenses that you can then share with someone else. Okay, and then each of you will have a license to install the software on one computer. The person who's paying for it would then, say, I'm going to select this, I'm going to buy it, do that kind of thing. And then, fortunately, one of you in the class sent me the email of what you get. So then you would get this kind of email here. I just took a screenshot of this. But basically, you get this email, and it basically just says, thanks for your order, fantastic, great job, thank you very much. And what it does is it gives you instructions of how to download it, as well as the license key. The person who's paying for it is going to forward this to the other person, their partner, because that person's also going to need probably the instructions, but also the license key. It's very important that each of you only installs it on one computer, because if you install it on 2 computers, well, then you're going to have to give your partner their money back. Now, once you follow the instructions of how to download, and I did find someone else was asking me about installation, and I found this from the USC website. Yeah, we can all remember. So USC, they get the software for free, but just remember they pay a lot more in tuition. It kind of walks you through also how to download it. So I'll give everyone this link as well with this video of like the steps you would follow to install it. But again, if you follow the steps in this download correctly, at some point you'd be asked to enter the license key, and then you will get this an icon that probably looks like this or something hopefully very similar to this on the bottom, or whatever will be the software that's installed on your computer. Okay, so let's say that you've now got it installed. And I'm just going to start from the beginning here. Okay, so now you've successfully installed it. So now let's just talk about the very basics of what the software can do for you. So open it. Okay, you'll get up with something like this. Now in my case, I've already turned off. It'll come up with another window. In the lower right hand corner of that window, it'll say like turn this off. It's kind of like a welcome screen. I just turned it off because I don't like to have to see it every time. But this is how it will open. It'll open with just a screen like this. Sorry, you won't get it like that. You'll get it looking like that. Okay. So the thing to, when you first see this, just so you don't get inundated with this, would be that you have two ways of looking at all the information. You have what's called a data view, and you have what's called a variable view. The data view would be that you're seeing the numbers. The variable view would be that we're focusing on what is it that we're actually measuring. So let's sorry. Okay, I'm just typing in this data here. Just ignore what I'm doing here. I just made a slight mistake here. Okay, so I'm just entering in some numbers here, and that's all I'm doing here. These are somewhat random, somewhat not. Okay. So you just see here, I just typed in, for 11 rows, I typed in numbers for 3 columns. The rows in the data view represent the individuals that we are asking information from. So that's basically our sample. The columns represent the variable. And you see them listed here as var 00001, var 00002, right? And so on and so forth. These variables here are basically the variable. It's basically the thing that we are collecting the information on. So imagine that this is person 1, this is person 2, person 3, person 4, and I'm collecting 3 pieces of information from each individual. Now, the first thing we would do here with this data is we got to clean up these because I don't know what they mean yet. So how do you clean these up? Well, to do that, I'm going to go into variable view. Okay, so now I can name it here, and then I can label it. Those are probably the 2 most important things to deal with first here. So this, for the names, they can't have spaces. They can't have special characters, no pound signs or anything like that. So in this case, I'm going to make the first variable my gender, the second variable my height. And I'm just double clicking here just to get the whole name here. And the third variable my weight. Now, for the label you can do anything you want. You can throw spaces in there, special characters, anything you want, and you're using that so that you can be reminded of what things mean. So in the label here, I'm going to say something like this. 1, to be coded as a number 1 means that you're a male. To be coded as a 2 means that you're a female. I didn't have to do it that way. I could have said 2 is female, 1 was male. It doesn't matter. I just had to find some quick way to do it. Height. I'm going to say this is height in inches. And I'm going to say here, this is weight in pounds. Okay. So now what you can see here is that I need to tell SPSS what the variable type is. What is it? How is it measuring? In the case of gender, gender is a nominal variable, meaning you are male or female. It's a dichotomous variable because it's 1 or 2. Again, I'm fully aware that the person can try to resist that category and say they don't identify as male or female. That's fine. We could create a number 3. We could try to change it a different way. I'm just stepping outside of that debate for right now, honoring that there's a debate, but I just want to make it as, let's just say that of the 11 individuals, everyone was identifying either as male or female. And when they said that they were a male, I, as the collector of the data, coded that as a 1. If the person told me they were a female, I coded that as a 2. And so I'm just reminding myself of that. And now this is a dichotomous nominal variable. In terms of height and weight, we know that it can be like 0.3333222, right? It can be, this is scalar. So I'm going to keep this as scalar. Okay, and now I went back to data view. Now, I have a way of understanding these 11 pieces of information I collected for each of these individuals. Now, as we saw in module 1, some of the things we started to think about then for these statistics was, how could I describe a little bit deeper what's going on? Now, before I do that, I want to show you something kind of cool here. I can change, if I'm like entering in data here and I forget, oh man, what the fuck was number 1? What was that again, male or female? I can always click this right here. Sorry, I gotta click this. Should. Sorry, maybe I didn't do it right. Oh, here we go. So you can see here I went into variable view, I went into values, and I just forgot to type these in here. So when it sees a number 1, it's going to say that that's male. When it sees number 2, it's going to put in female. I'll click OK. We'll go back to data view here. So now when I click this, it changes gender from 1, 2 to male, female. It's just helpful when you're typing in lots of data that you're able to do that. And before I go any further here, I'm just going to save this. Now, how do I want to try to understand this data? Well, what I could do here, one simple thing I could try to do here is I could try to sort the data, and I could try to assort it, all of the data, by the height ascending, meaning as you get taller, these are where all the individuals were, and it's sorted. I've kept everyone together here. Actually, I don't think it did. Sorry. Forget what I did. Oh, is it totally not going to let me do it? Sorry. Good thing I just saved it, huh? Okay, let's say you made a mistake like I just did. I don't want to save it. Don't do what I did. Well, and if you do, just make sure you're saving it all the time. I just don't want to retype in the data. Recently used data. Okay. So you see what I did there is I just went to window and I got the window. There's an output window and then there's my data window. So I just got my data window back. Okay, so don't do what I did there. Don't try to sort it. Let's just go into the things you really want to be able to do here. Okay. So the reason why SPSS is used a lot for, don't take offense at what I'm about to say here, but for those of you who are new to most statistical software and you don't like to do a lot of coding, you're going to like this because it's a lot of drop-down menus. And what you'll see that I do here is I'm going to click Analyze. And look at all of this shit here. I mean, look at this all. This is what you're paying the $17 for 6 months of access to. The fact that you can do all these things. Now, this is a lot of stuff. Let's just focus first on descriptive statistics, and let's just talk about something that we already started to generate or talk about in module 1, which was frequencies. So when you do that, it's going to want to know which variables are you interested in doing. I'm going to pick all of them. So I'm going to select all of them, bring it over here, and then I've got some choices here. I can click statistics or I can click on charts. Let's start with statistics. Okay, so now I can get a lot of information. And the issue here with SPSS, if you don't learn very much from this video, one thing from SPSS that I dislike, but you may like, is the fact that SPSS will give you lots and lots and lots of data very, very, very quickly. Great. If you just want to show off to your boyfriend or girlfriend and make yourself look like a statistician, SPSS will absolutely do that job for you. But what hopefully you're going to get out of this course is that you're going to become a more refined customer of what it's spitting out. And hopefully when you have seen your seminar, you also are going to be better at knowing what it's giving you and what all of that data means. So, what would you want to know? All depends on the kind of data that we're talking about here. But let's just start with a simple thing here. Let's just start with a simple thing where okay. So again, remember I said I had this output window, and the output window will come up first. So remember, when we were talking about frequencies, In this 11-person sample, I'd want to know, for instance, how many males did I have, how many females did I have. Well, it turns out, and look, you can right-click on any of these and you can export them to Word, or you can export them to Google Docs or anything like that. So you can make your, dude, I'm not giving you feedback. You can export this to Word, you can export it to Google Docs and make your reports look really fancy. But basically what we see here is that out of my 11 people total in my sample, 6 were male, 5 were female. Those 6 people represented 54.5%, females 45.5%, that adds up to 100%. Okay, height in inches. Okay, I had somewhere, I was just being lazy and I typed in the same number a few times. 3 times, I typed in the number 3 times. And what it does is it allows me again to say how many times does that height appear as a percentage, and then I've got my cumulative percentages here. Again, adds up to 100. Same with weight. Here I had all unique numbers, so that means that everyone had 9.1%, adding up to 100%. Now, the other interesting information, not really so much for male female, but when you get over to height and weight, would be that I could start to talk about not just the frequency, but what does it look like in terms of what the mean and the standard deviation is. Okay, so to do that, sorry, I don't want to make anything worse here. So to do this, I'm going to go back up to Analyze. I'm going to go back to Descriptive Statistics. And instead of frequencies, I'm now going to click on Descriptives. I'm going to keep the same 3 variables. In my case, I'm interested in all 3 variables. You wouldn't have to do this kind of thing. But I'm going to pick all same 3 variables again. I pick on options, and let's say I want to know some of the same pieces of information. Standard deviation, min, max, mean. Continue. Continue. And so now, what the output window is doing is it's keeping my previous analysis present. So it's keeping my frequency analysis present here. But now what it's adding to it are my descriptive statistics. That from my male, female, height, and weight, it's giving my min, my max, my sum, which actually isn't important. I didn't really need to do sum. But it's giving me my mean score, and it's giving me my standard deviation. If something like standard deviation doesn't make sense yet, don't worry. We're going to talk about it. But again, it's useful statistics for trying to talk about what's going on here. Now, this whole output window that you've got going on here, I can be saving this as well. And I can start saving this as a viewer file. That's probably the easiest way to do it. Or I can export it. I can export it to a Word file. I can export it to a PDF. Nice, easy things to do. But again, you don't want to do that until you've got a finished product. While you're working on it, I would suggest you just save the output here as a viewer file that you can then go back to and just open later, because then you could just go here to open and again open it later. I'm not going to do that yet though, because I want to show you one more thing. Let's go back to Analyze again. Descriptive Statistics. I'm going to go back to Descriptives. Sorry, not Descriptives, sorry. Descriptive Statistics and Frequencies. And I'm going to go to Charts now. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is basically give some numbers to, or some pictures to what's going on here. So now I would have a picture of how many are male versus female, what my height in inches, how that's represented across that spiel. And we knew with the weight in pounds, everyone had a unique number, so everyone was 9.1%. I can even get some fancier things going on here if I want to do chart builder. We're not going to do that yet. Let's not worry about that exactly yet. Okay, at this point, let's say that I want to save this output. Okay. Just trying to think, is there anything else I would want you to be able to do here, at least with getting used to how to do this in the very beginning here? Not really. Start to play around with this. So basically by the end of this video, you'll be able to become a little bit more familiar with what's going on in SPSS with a very simple data set.